what was the financial impact of the change of status, and how was it for the local authority to commit over the medium term?
Well, the local authority, when we moved to trust, we agreed a grant settlement, which is an annual grant, and so that gave us security for the future in terms of our planning and in terms of providing a stable environment for museums to operate. The funding from district council does taper a bit, but we responded that by building our trading arm. So together we've been trying to rebalance that budget to bring in more funds and to reduce local authority funding.
So it's quite crucial to develop those two strands side by side then, to develop your trading arm and your fundraising efforts at the same time as the taper.
For us, there's opportunities because when we did the as I mentioned earlier, we produced a development plan for the museum. So clearly, with that, we were looking at where we could build our income, and what's the potential for better trading. Our shop is really important because it's a large unit which faces onto a shopping centre now, and we are developing it at the moment, as I mentioned, and it'll be completely transformed. But it brings in a lot of a very important tranche of funding for us. Clearly in the current environment, retailing is difficult, but we are still trading well, and what we anticipate is that the new leisure facilities opening around us will increase footfall. So we are optimistic that, for example, our shop trading will do well in the coming years. The other things is when we developed our new pie gallery, we made that a charged-for gallery rather than free admittance. So that was another new income stream for us. So we offer now normally around 4 special exhibitions per annum in the pie gallery, and visitors pay to see our exhibitions. But that's brought in a new strand of funding, and likewise things like room hire and our education programs.
Because ordinarily the rest of your museum offer is free to the public, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just for your special exhibitions that you
yes, and activities. Yeah. So we also have a cafe. So we have various sources of income. I should say that we are still developing. You don't reach a state where you say, okay, this is it. We're developing giving to the museum, and we had another grant from Arts Council last year to work with Sergi, and we've been working on our membership schemes and indeed giving, and bequests. So those are areas which are coming on stream this year. So and it becomes easier to do that as indeed the museum looks and feels more independent. So those are important new strands of funding. And, we've got several membership schemes. One of which is our patron circle, and that's very important. It brings in funding to support particularly our special exhibitions, to bring in great work.
And your special exhibition on at the moment is?
Well, currently it's 1980s. It's an exhibition on 1980s. So our gallery has a mix of shows from fine art. We had a great exhibition which unfortunately was stalled several times because it opened just before lockdown in December 2020. But that was drawing a fantastic collection of over 40 works from the Arts Council's collection. They included several Hockneys, and it was a astonishing show, our biggest ever.
Had some quite high profile artists.
Yeah, and it was fantastic to bring that to Banbury. But the current show in the summer, we always do a much more family-friendly exhibition, and our exhibition on 1980s is about that, and it's been very popular. as people have reminisced about what it was like back then. VHS and Betamax and all those interesting things that we recall, if you remember those times.
I think I come back to a point that I've made earlier, which is that the drivers for both Hampshire County Council and Winchester City Council and the other districts and boroughs that all supported the transition as well, because they all kept their money in despite the pressures that they were experiencing, and all kept their commitment in. It was not about saving money, because like I say, the cheapest option for that would just been to take the money out and let the chips fall as they may. It was absolutely about recognising that there was going to be a reduction in budget available, full stop, for every service in the local authorities. But they wanted to do it in a way that supported the ongoing development of a really valuable set of services and provision for local communities. So we were able to, and actually I think it was an absolutely pivotal baseline, if you like. You know, we talked about red lines in the sand, if you like, in terms of the balance of benefits of going to trust as opposed to staying within a local authority. And one of those was absolutely about the wonderful kind of support that both Hampshire and Winchester really put in to the mix in terms of the financial agreement. So we were able to secure, because of this long-term development aspiration, we were able to secure a 25-year rolling grant agreement, which every 5 years in advance, you would know exactly how much money the trust has to play with. The actual savings targets that the Hampshire County Council Arts and Museum Services, for example, would have had to make were slightly postponed, slightly delayed in order for this development opportunity to be made possible. So instead of making these savings in, you know, we had to make some savings in 2011, 2012, 2013, but we'd have had to make many, you know, it would have to been much deeper unless there was this view to sort of support a long-term transformation and a longer term sort of saving over a longer period. And that took bold decision making by senior decision makers within the county council and over that period of time. So we set it up so that there wasn't a sudden financial impact of the change of status, as in money being removed. And that was a lesson learnt from other trusts that had gone out and done exactly that, where within a year the local authority, as part of the agreement, had sort of planned to take out a significant amount of money, and those trusts were finding it very challenging and destabilising. So we set it up so that it was a journey financially, and that we were able, as part of that, to benefit from the financial gains of moving to a trust over a period. It wasn't without its pain. We know that. We know that the financial journey was had its moments, but it got through those moments as an organisation, and it's come out incredibly strongly on the other side, again with, you know, wonderful groups of people, you know, taking it forward. The financial benefits that you immediately get are around rates. So, for example, with the Hampshire Cultural Trust, because there were a lot of properties involved, there's actually quite a lot of financial benefit in not in the charitable status, meaning you're not having to pay rates. Also, there were ability to raise funding from kind of trusts and foundations. We set up an ambassador scheme, which in the first year brought in about 60,000 immediately, and got a lot of good, strong support from local people who wish the trust well. We secured a Paul Hamlin Foundation grant for over 400,000 over a period of time, which we would never have been eligible for if we'd still been within the local authority context. So there were some immediate wins, and then over time we were able to really, because of that depth of financial knowledge, we were really able to start pushing forward the commercial performance, the trading performance of the trust, plus the knowledge of a board of trustees that included, commercial knowledge that was able to focus in on the trading activities of the organisation as well, bringing in the chief operating officer who was able to look across the piece at driving change and really drilling into the budgets and driving up the income performance and driving down costs and so on. So within 4 years, we went from a 0 reserves to over 1 million reserves within that 4-year period, to give the trust the kind of stability that it really needed to get itself started.
Can you go into a little detail about the change in financial and services as you left the local authority and transferred over to a CIC?
Okay, our transfer to CIC actually went live 1st of May 2018, which was the effective transfer date in our 25-year agreement. At that point, the council's support around IT, HR, finance systems effectively came to a hard stop. We anticipated that. So we knew that our IT system, we would have to procure our own IT provider, our own software, hardware. We had to provide our own finance system. We went with Sage. We even knew we had to provide our own HR advice, our own payroll. None of this was unexpected. And we actually chose to actually have this hard stop, if you will, for a couple of reasons. One, I actually thought we could do it better. And I think subsequent to that hard stop, after a few initial teething troubles, I'll tell you about those in a second, I think we are better, actually. I think we're better for our scope and our scale. We are much more flexible and agile. Cliches, I know, but we are. In terms of our culture, I think it was really important for the staff team to recognise that we were no longer part of the council. And frankly, having to do all those kind of things that people may have sent an email to the HR department or rung somebody in finance and said, can you do? Actually now there was nobody to ring, nobody to email, you had to do it yourself. And actually I think that was a really useful discipline to kind of get used at a very early stage to being self-sufficient. Now, it may have been a slightly harsh lesson, and at times I think all of us may have thought, good, I wish I could just get a little bit more support around HR, for example, but as it is, managers have to manage. And so there was a little bit, I think, where some of my colleagues felt possibly a little exposed. But my job is to try and give them confidence and lead them through that. So we had a hard stop. That was anticipated and desirable. However, my earlier point around the level of initial capital investment we had meant that that hard stop of services was possibly a little harder than we'd envisaged. And so we were struggling in the first few months, I think, because we hadn't quite got everything in place because we couldn't quite afford the optimum model. Again, what I would say around that is, although we were absolutely self-sufficient on finance, the local authority did not abandon us. It was an agreed hard stop. It was agreed severance of service supply, but we were still able, frankly, to phone somebody and get some advice. So it was a withdrawal or a cessation of services, but absolutely not a withdrawal or cessation of support and advice. And I think that was helpful, to be quite honest. And I think I'd support anybody in saying we do need to stand on our own 2 feet. It's a bit like parenting, I suppose. Like, we'd left home but we still could phone mum and dad up for a little bit of advice, and that was really important, I think, and helped us through a couple of bumpy patches in the first 6 months.